Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I'm going to do a kind of a wrap up of some of the women's boxing related books that I've been reading. So I think I've done quite a few videos now because it's something that I'm really into. I kickbox, I'm boxing, I'm getting into boxing proper as well. I love martial arts. I like kind of wrestling, combat sports, and I'm really interested, obviously being a woman, in how women relate to that because it is traditionally very much seen as a male-dominated sport or industry or arena to get into. So I've been reading tons of fiction and non-fiction that I really love that I'm going to share with you if you're interested. So here goes. So the first two books I have, okay, I'm going to do fiction first. So the first two books I have is this one. So this is Girl Fighter by Sir Anne Knight, and this one is The Ring by Bobby Pyron. Now these two books are both, obviously as you can tell by the covers, about women in boxing, and in this one she practices Muay Thai and more kickboxing. So this is YA, this is adult. Let me start with the adult one first. So, Girl Fighter. So this is about a main character. Her name is Aaliyah. She is mixed race, which is really nice representation. And she's originally Australian and she's in London because she's incredibly smart. She's like a computer programmer and she works for this firm in London. But she's also incredibly isolated. She very much lives in her own world. She goes to work, she does her thing there, she's brilliant, and then she goes off to the gym and she trains after work. And she's, in the first half of this book, she's training. There's like a build up to a fight that she's going to have. What this book really explores, which I found interesting and I wasn't really expecting it, was some really dark themes around loneliness and I guess depression, and you know how we live in these big cities but we are very much alone quite often, no human connections, and Aaliyah is like that. She really struggles to connect with anybody, and especially kind of at this time it's interesting where a lot of people are forcibly almost being isolated and not having any human connection. It's really interesting to watch her struggle through that, to watch her kind of digest her childhood, to watch her digest her own feelings, her own rage. An event happens that changes the course of her life. It's very good. It's very hard-hitting, I would say, book. And she is an interesting, complex character, not necessarily easy to like. So she reminds me a little bit of Eleanor Oliphant is Dead. So the main character in that book, I think a lot of people said they really struggled to like her. But I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. And yeah, I thought it was interesting, and it really touched on some interesting themes as well, that again I hadn't necessarily read before. So really enjoyed that. And then this one, The Ring, this is sort of the YA version. So you've got Mardi, who's the main character here. She's 15 and she lives with her brother Michael, her father and her stepmother. Her mother died when she was really young, so she's still struggling through that and kind of like wanting to talk about her mother. She has some anger issues. She is very much trying to kind of just find herself, work through, I mean at that age, at 15, just work through who you are. And she gets in trouble quite a lot, and her parents are kind of fed up with her, and then she goes with her stepmother. Her stepmother goes to this gym to practice, is it Pilates, yoga, something like that. And she walks past and she sees sort of women boxing, and then she joins this boxing class, and that has a really positive aspect on her life. The other bit of this book that's really interesting is her brother Michael is gay, and how he comes out and how he's treated. I would say blatant loads of homophobia, abuse, kind of violence directed at Michael. So that is a trigger warning, but unfortunately also a reality of life still today. And also towards Mardi, the typical jibe if a woman boxes, die, gay, all of that. So there's that in here. And I would say Mardi's reaction to her brother in the beginning isn't the best. But at the end, their relationship's lovely, and then the family relationship in the end is nice. But I would say, like I said, there's a lot of homophobia. What I would also say about Girl Fight is you get those same jobs at Aaliyah, obviously, because, again, she's a woman who does kickboxing. And also there isn't a lot of queer content, but there is her boss in here that he briefly shows up in the beginning. who is actually openly gay, which is quite nice. So that's not an issue in this book. But yeah, what I would say in here is that, yeah, it's great, again, a great storyline. Unfortunately, what happens, but there is a lot of homophobia directed at Michael. Then the 3 non-fiction books I have here are, let me hold them all up. No, I won't hold them up, I keep falling. These 3. So the first one is Without Apology. This is Girls, Women and the Desire to Fight by Leah Hager Cohen. And this book, so it's a non-fiction, but it actually reads like fiction, in my opinion. So you've got the author, Leah, who is a journalist, and she does the story, and she spends some time with these women, so female trainer and these girls at a boxing gym. And she, in the beginning, she's kind of quite anti-boxing. She doesn't know what she's going to think of this, but she really falls in love with the sport, and she sees how it affects these girls in positive ways. And it's basically her telling the story of these girls. I think it's throughout a year, so teenage girls and their trainer. And it just is so interesting, but it does read like a novel. It doesn't even read necessarily like a non-fiction book, but she does reference things in here. There's a lot of, you can see I've sort of tabbed it up. There's a lot of kind of research into, or references to books on feminism and research into women, and in terms of, you know, things like aggression and, you know, women getting into combat sports and how that looks and things like that. Really fascinating, really interesting. Love this book. And then the other 2 non-fiction books I have here are The Boxing Diaries by Marion Dunn. So let me move my hand there. And then the other one is The Boxer's Heart by Kate Sakoulis. So let me start with The Boxing Diaries, because I have something at the back of this. So The Boxing Diaries by Marion Dunn. I love this. So this is about a 50-year-old woman who discovers boxing for the first time. And she kind of, she's a bit like, oh, she wants to get a little bit fitter, you know, she's getting older. And again, she decides that boxing is the way to go. Raises some eyebrows with her husband and her family, like, what are you doing? And then especially at your age. But she kind of, this follows her, I think, over 3 years and her journey into the gym and the people she meets. It also has sort of a sidebar about her family, and you go up to Liverpool and find out a bit more about her family. And it's just really lovely. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was an interesting read. I thought it was an interesting delve also into, you know, women, for the wrong reasons, tend to get sort of almost forgotten when they pass middle age. It's like when you're not young and pretty and buxom anymore, no one's interested. And I love reading the perspective of a woman that's of an older age, and just watching her journey through this is fascinating and interesting and beautiful, and I really love this. And then the last book I'm going to talk about is this one here, is The Boxer's Heart by Kate Sakoulis. And this was timed, the original release was timed to coincide with the first ever women's boxing event in the Olympics. It took many years for women's boxing to be included. And this actually follows Kate again, who, it's her kind of journey into, it's a bit like Without Apology. So Kate's a writer, and she is always on this kind of get fit mantra because she writes for women's magazines. And again, she kind of goes into sort of, I think, a boxer size class, but then ends up going into proper boxing gym and really getting into it. And also kind of her thoughts on, you know, her preconceptions of what she thought boxing was like, of what she thought women in boxing were like, and her kind of realization that she actually wants to spar, that she actually wants to have a fight, not just, I mean, a proper boxing match, not just kind of boxer-size type of thing. So it's, again, it's really fascinating. And what I love about this is this is set, well, not set because this is real, but she boxes at Gleason's boxing gym, which, if you know anything about the boxing world, is very famous. And it was made famous by the film $1 Million Baby as well. But it is very much, I love that it's set in this institution, this cathedral of boxing, as Gleason's gym is known. And on that note, if you want more, if those books were not enough, if you want more women boxing, I have some more recommendations. So these recommendations are for films. So I have got the obvious one, $1 Million Baby. So this is based on a short story, and they made a film out of it. Hilary Swank. This is Oscars galore. It is about a young woman wanting to become a boxer. And yeah, it's phenomenal, but I would also say it's really sad. And then this one is Girl Fight. This is fantastic. This is about, so I would probably kind of relate this a little bit more to, oh, what was the other book I had? In the Ring, a little bit. So you've got a young woman who, again, she's got some aggression issues, and she starts to take up boxing, and it kind of talks about her family life, about what's going on there, about her working her way through her issues and her being in the boxing ring. And this, I loved this film, loved it. I watched it, I got it, and I think I watched it twice within 2-3 days. So really, really good. Like I said, if you're into kind of boxing, you want a bit of more, these two films. And then the last thing I would talk about is, if you want to then get into boxing, I would totally recommend this book over here. So this is the Gleason's Gym Total Boxing Workout for Women. This will give you so this is really, she's got a foreword by Hilary Swank in it, and then it really just talks about boxing. It talks about the different shots. You've got some great, like, they actually show you how to, there's drawings in here, so you could, you know, if you're stuck in lockdown and you're thinking, I want to give this boxing malarkey a go, then this book is fantastic. It shows you how to make a fist, it shows you stance, it kind of really starts from the bottom, takes you through what it would be like to box, and then maybe if you enjoy it, do some shadow boxing at home, and then get out in the gym and hit the heavy bag. But yeah, this is awesome. So I just thought I would mention this, and also because it's Gleason's, it ties in beautifully with everything else. So that is it. Yeah. So if you like that, let me know. If you've read any of these, let me know. If you have any great boxing book recommendations, please let me know. Yeah, and thank you for listening. I hope you're all well and safe, and I will speak to you all again soon. Bye-bye.